Every morning at exactly 7:47, the same black Escalade tore across my front lawn and crushed the roses my dead wife planted before she died. Dirt flying, sprinklers snapping, 8-inch tire ruts carved straight through her memorial garden, and every single time, the driver never even touched the brakes. I ran out once and screamed for her to stop. She rolled down the tinted window, smiled at me and said, "HOA access. You can't do a thing about it." Cheryl Blackstone, HOA Vice President, license plate HOA Perez. Police reports went nowhere. HOA meetings went nowhere. Lawyers took my money and gave me silence. 47 mornings in a row, the system protected her. So for the 48th morning, I stopped asking for help and started solving this like an engineer. What would you do if someone kept destroying your spouse's memorial? Drop your revenge fantasy below. Let me paint you the picture of what paradise looked like before it turned into a war zone. My name is Jake Brennan, and I'm a retired aerospace engineer who thought I'd found peace in Colorado Springs after 40 years of designing aircraft systems for Boeing. Sarah and I bought our corner lot in Meadowbrook Heights thinking we'd found our retirement sanctuary. 2 years of meticulous planning went into that memorial garden. Heirloom roses from her grandmother's farm in County Cork, Ireland. Native Colorado wildflowers that bloomed in synchronized waves. And a hand-carved granite bench where I'd drink my morning coffee while watching hummingbirds visit her carefully positioned feeders. The smell of pine sap and mountain air filled our mornings like nature's own aromatherapy. I'd measure everything twice with my old Boeing tape measure, building garden borders with the same mathematical precision I'd used designing aircraft systems for 40 years. Sarah would laugh, saying I was engineering roses, but those worn leather gardening gloves still hanging in our garage proved she loved every calculated inch of my obsessive attention to detail. The texture of Colorado soil felt different under our hands, rocky, challenging, requiring patience and persistence to coax life from the high-altitude environment. We'd spend hours planning drainage systems, calculating sun exposure angles, and designing irrigation networks that would keep her memorial garden thriving through harsh mountain winters. Then cancer hit like a meteorite, destroying everything in its path. Sarah spent her final months sketching garden layouts with trembling hands, pressing flowers in her leather-bound journal, writing detailed notes about which varieties would bloom when and how they'd create a living calendar of color throughout the growing season. The garden should protect itself, she'd written in her careful teacher's handwriting, just like the mountains protect Colorado. I found that prophetic note after she passed, tucked between pressed petals from those precious Irish roses. 2 years later, I'm living alone in our retirement dream, keeping Sarah's garden alive through sheer stubborn engineering determination. Every morning followed the same sacred ritual, coffee on the porch at sunrise, checking the automated sprinkler system I'd designed like a NASA irrigation network, deadheading roses with surgical precision while talking to Sarah's memory about weather patterns and soil pH levels. The sound of my measuring tape clicking became the soundtrack of solitude, mixed with the gentle hum of water pumps and the satisfying crunch of mulch under my boots. This was healing therapy disguised as horticulture, mathematics applied to grief management. That's when Cheryl Blackstone entered my carefully ordered world like a natural disaster with a real estate license. Picture this woman, 52 years old, perfectly coiffed blonde hair that defied Colorado wind, always wearing expensive real estate blazers that cost more than my monthly pension check. Vice president of our homeowners association, and the kind of person who measured her daily success by counting how many neighbors she could intimidate before lunch. Her black Cadillac Escalade, vanity license plate HOA, became my personal symbol of everything wrong with suburban power dynamics. Cheryl wasn't just a pushy neighbor. She was a strategic predator who'd figured out how to weaponize HOA regulations for pure profit. Her methodology was coldly efficient. Identify properties with commercial development potential, then make life systematically miserable for current owners until they sold cheap to her brother-in-law's development company. My corner lot represented prime real estate worth $200,000 more if converted from residential to commercial space. Monday morning, March 15th, 7:47 a.m. precisely. I'm watering Sarah's memorial roses, feeling that familiar mixture of sadness and peace that comes with tending her living legacy, when Cheryl's Escalade comes roaring around the corner at 35 miles per hour. Instead of following the clearly marked cul-de-sac route like every other civilized human being, she cuts straight across my lawn with the entitlement of someone who'd never been told no in her entire privileged life. The sound hit me first. 6,000 pounds of luxury SUV compacting earth that Sarah and I had lovingly prepared with organic compost and carefully balanced nutrients. Then the visual assault. 8-inch tire ruts carving through the memorial garden like fresh scars across a painting, destroying $300 worth of irreplaceable plantings in 3 seconds to save this woman 90 seconds on her morning commute to make other people's lives miserable. I stood there holding Sarah's old copper watering can, watching diesel exhaust drift over crushed lavender and destroyed hopes, feeling something break inside my chest that had nothing to do with grief and everything to do with pure, calculated rage. The next morning, I channeled my aerospace engineering background into defensive strategy. I placed decorative river stones around the garden border, nothing fancy, just smooth granite rocks about the size of golf balls, arranged in a geometrically perfect pattern that would make any mathematician proud. Each stone was positioned with surveyor-level precision, creating visual barriers that would remind any reasonable person that actual human beings lived here and cared about this space. I should have known that reasonable person didn't describe Cheryl Blackstone. Tuesday, 7:47 a.m., like atomic clockwork. Cheryl's Escalade comes screaming around that corner with the mechanical fury of someone who viewed my defensive measures as a personal insult to her authority. Instead of avoiding my new stone border, she deliberately swerved to crush every single rock with the methodical precision of a demolition expert conducting quality control testing. I watched through my kitchen window as she targeted each stone individually, her luxury SUV's tires grinding granite into powder while widening the damage zone by 3 feet in each direction. The sound of crushing rock mixed with revving engine noise created a symphony of suburban warfare that echoed off our peaceful mountain backdrop. But that wasn't the worst part of her morning terrorism campaign. After systematically flattening my border stones like they were annoying speed bumps, she revved her engine to maximum RPM and deliberately destroyed Sarah's prized heirloom roses, the ones her grandmother had carried from County Cork in 1943 during the worst poverty Ireland had ever experienced. These weren't just flowers, they were living genetic treasures, botanical survivors that had endured the Irish potato famine, 2 world wars, immigration to America, and decades of careful cultivation by 3 generations of strong women. Each bloom carried DNA that couldn't be replicated, stories that couldn't be replaced, memories that couldn't be purchased from any garden center catalog. Gone. Mulched under Cheryl's tires like they were common weeds instead of irreplaceable family heirlooms worth more than her monthly car payment. The financial calculation hit like a precision-guided missile. $400 minimum to replace, assuming I could even locate comparable heirloom varieties from specialty growers who maintained historical rose genetics. 6 months minimum growing time to regrow what had taken decades to develop into full maturity. But the emotional devastation cut deeper than any spreadsheet could quantify when I found Sarah's garden journal that evening, open to a page where she'd pressed petals from those exact roses with museum-quality care. County Cork survivors, she'd written in her careful teacher's handwriting, using the fountain pen her students had given her for retirement. Living proof that beautiful things can endure anything if they're protected properly. Not anything, apparently. Not Cheryl Blackstone's morning temper tantrum disguised as transportation convenience. Time for engineering countermeasures. I installed an $800 professional security camera system with motion detection capabilities, GPS coordinate tracking, and military-grade timestamp documentation. My aerospace background proved invaluable. I positioned those cameras like a satellite surveillance network, covering every possible angle with overlapping fields of view that would make NASA proud. Each violation would be documented with courtroom-quality evidence, measured with scientific precision, and filed in both digital and hard copy formats for future legal action. The whir of camera motors tracking movement became my new morning soundtrack, along with the satisfying electronic beep of my computer spreadsheet recording damage costs with mathematical accuracy. Trespassing incident number 1, $300 in heirloom plantings destroyed. Incident number 2, $400 in irreplaceable roses eliminated. The escalation pattern was becoming predictable, and predictable patterns could be mathematically modeled and strategically countered. But Cheryl discovered my surveillance network faster than I'd calculated in my threat assessment planning. Thursday morning, she storms up to my front door with the confident aggression of a federal prosecutor approaching a hostile witness. Turns out she'd noticed the cameras during her Wednesday morning violation routine and had prepared a legal counterattack worthy of someone married to the HOA's general counsel. "Those cameras better disappear within 24 hours, she announced with courtroom authority, waving a manila folder full of official-looking documents that appeared legitimate to casual inspection. "I have emergency access rights through this property. Fire Department easement, Section 12B of the Municipal Emergency Services Code. You're obstructing emergency services, which constitutes a federal crime." She produced paperwork that looked professionally prepared, official county letterhead, embossed seals, legal terminology designed to intimidate homeowners who lacked legal training. Emergency vehicle access, she claimed with prosecutorial confidence, required completely unrestricted passage through my corner lot for fire trucks, ambulances, and police vehicles. Any barriers whatsoever, including security cameras, constituted willful obstruction of emergency services, punishable by substantial federal fines and potential criminal prosecution. "Document everything," I told her calmly, remembering Sarah's advice during her cancer treatment when dealing with insurance companies and medical bureaucrats. My dead wife taught me that paper trails protect innocent people from institutional bullying. Cheryl's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the momentary flash of genuine anger in her cold eyes at my refusal to be intimidated by her legal theater performance. 3 days later, Cheryl escalated to full legal warfare. The certified letter arrived with all the bureaucratic flourishes designed to intimidate ordinary citizens. Official HOA letterhead, sequential case numbers, multiple official stamps, and citations of made-up aesthetic guidelines requiring pre-approval for all security installations exceeding standard residential norms. $200 per day in accumulated fines until the cameras disappeared completely. The documentation looked professionally prepared because Brad Blackstone, Cheryl's husband and our HOA's legal counsel, had crafted every intimidating word with law school precision. This wasn't random harassment. This was systematic legal intimidation designed to bankrupt anyone who dared challenge Cheryl's authority through financial attrition rather than actual legal merit. I dealt with government bureaucracy during my 40-year Boeing career, navigating FAA regulations and military contract requirements that could ground entire aircraft programs over paperwork technicalities. But HOA politics operated on a completely different level of creative corruption that made federal agencies look transparent and accountable by comparison. The board rubber-stamped Cheryl's complaint without discussion, debate, site inspection, or even basic fact-checking. $6,000 in accumulated penalties unless I voluntarily removed the only protection my property possessed against ongoing vehicular assault. They'd engineered a perfect legal catch-22. Document the violations to build a criminal case, or accept financial ruin by removing the documentation system. Classic authoritarian strategy. Make resistance more expensive than compliance. But Cheryl had fundamentally underestimated my technical background and stubborn engineering persistence. 40 years of aerospace work teaches you to read complex technical documents with microscopic attention to detail and obsessive fact-checking protocols. When you're designing aircraft systems, one misplaced decimal point can kill hundreds of people, so you verify absolutely everything twice through independent sources. I spent the entire weekend in our community center basement, surrounded by the musty smell of deteriorating paperwork and fluorescent lighting that hummed like dying insects, researching our HOA charter with the same methodical intensity I'd used analyzing flight safety manuals for potential catastrophic failure modes. The original HOA filing from 1987 contained absolutely no camera restrictions, no aesthetic guidelines beyond basic architectural consistency, and definitely no authority for arbitrary daily financial penalties without proper legal procedures and resident notification requirements. What I discovered instead were 23 separate illegal amendments added between 2015 and 2023, all signed by the exact same legal counsel, all systematically failing to meet Colorado HOA law requirements for mandatory resident approval through proper voting procedures. Here's the crucial knowledge nugget that changed everything. Colorado Revised Statute 3833.308 requires 67% resident approval for any HOA bylaw modifications or enforcement policy changes. Cheryl's amendments had never achieved this legal threshold. In fact, most neighborhood residents had never even been notified that votes were supposedly taking place. Translation: every fine, every regulation, every enforcement action from the past 8 years was completely invalid under Colorado state law. But the real smoking gun evidence came when I cross-referenced all the legal signatures against public records. Brad Blackstone, Cheryl's husband, an obvious co-conspirator, was the attorney who'd personally written all 23 illegal amendments while serving as our HOA's supposedly neutral legal counsel. Massive conflict of interest violations that could invalidate our entire community's legal structure and potentially trigger state attorney general investigations. The scratch of my pencil on engineering calculation paper filled those late-night research sessions as I began sketching preliminary trebuchet designs and defensive installation possibilities. Colorado's Make My Day law kept surfacing in my legal research like a mathematical constant. Property owners possessed broad authority to use reasonable force protecting their land from ongoing vehicular threats. Reasonable force. Those two words stuck in my analytical mind like an elegant equation begging to be solved through practical engineering application. Tuesday morning brought Cheryl's next predictable escalation. She confronted me during my sacred coffee ritual with the clicking aggression of expensive heels on concrete like a countdown timer measuring approaches to inevitable conflict. Remove those cameras immediately or face serious legal consequences, she announced with prosecutorial authority, brandishing yet another manila folder of threatening documentation designed to intimidate people who hadn't spent decades dealing with government regulatory agencies. "I'll see you in court," I replied with the calm confidence of someone who'd actually read the relevant statutes instead of relying on intimidation tactics. "Bring your marriage certificate. Explaining conflict of interest should prove interesting to State Bar Association investigators." Her perfectly composed expression cracked for exactly 2.3 seconds before professional mask reasserted itself. She'd assumed she was dealing with another frightened homeowner, not someone with technical skills necessary to audit legal documents and persistent enough to actually follow through on threats. "You have 48 hours, she snapped, then stormed back toward her Escalade with the frustrated energy of someone whose bluff had been called by superior preparation. I watched her drive away, noting the nervous acceleration pattern that suggested I'd struck a significant psychological blow against her confidence in this intimidation campaign. That evening, I opened Sarah's garden journal to the page containing her sketched defensive garden borders. Cheryl's nuclear option arrived 2 weeks later disguised as community service. I was enjoying my sacred morning coffee ritual when a military convoy of commercial lawn equipment rumbled up my street like mechanized infantry preparing for suburban conquest. Bulldozers, industrial wood chippers, commercial-grade mowers, and a massive dump truck, all bearing the professionally painted logo of Blackstone Property Management Company. Her husband's business, naturally. The conflict of interest web kept expanding like a perfectly engineered conspiracy. Emergency dangerous vegetation removal, Cheryl announced from her air-conditioned Escalade command center, waving official-looking paperwork through her tinted window like a general ordering artillery bombardment. HOA Emergency Authority for immediate community safety improvement measures. Your memorial garden violates multiple fire safety codes and insurance liability requirements. Complete legal fiction delivered with the confident authority of someone who'd never been challenged by anyone with actual knowledge of municipal fire safety regulations. I watched in helpless, calculating rage as a massive bulldozer carved through Sarah's 15-year-old Japanese maple, the anniversary tree we'd planted to celebrate surviving cancer treatments together, the majestic centerpiece that shaded our morning coffee conversations and provided sanctuary for 3 generations of nesting birds. The operator treated this living monument like an annoying obstacle, uprooting decades of growth in 30 seconds of mechanical violence. But the real emotional devastation came when heavy machinery cracked Sarah's memorial stone, hand-carved Colorado granite featuring her favorite philosophical quote, "Love grows best in little gardens, surrounded by strong protective walls." The bulldozer's steel blade caught it wrong during soil grading operations, splitting the precious stone down the middle like a broken heart carved in mountain rock. Everything Sarah had dreamed about, everything we'd built together through 23 years of marriage, systematically obliterated under the false pretense of community beautification by people who measured beauty purely in terms of property values and development potential. The industrial growl of diesel engines mixed with the sharp crack of splitting wood, the nauseating crunch of memorial flowers being processed into organic mulch, and the soul-crushing sound of my wife's legacy disappearing under bureaucratic justification for pure vandalism. Total damage assessment, impossible to calculate in mere dollars. The emotional anchor connecting me to my deceased wife's memory, systematically destroyed by people who viewed love as a fire hazard requiring immediate remediation. I called Colorado Springs Police Department immediately. Officer Martinez arrived within 20 minutes, surveying the organized destruction with the professional sympathy of someone who'd witnessed too much petty cruelty disguised as legal authority throughout his law enforcement career. "I completely understand your frustration, Mr. Brennan," he said with genuine empathy, official notepad ready for incident documentation. "But HOA authorization significantly complicates any potential criminal charges here. Property destruction requires proving malicious intent to damage, and she's presenting paperwork claiming legitimate community improvement activities." However, Officer Martinez mentioned something legally significant during his official report that would fundamentally change my strategic thinking. Colorado's property defense laws, he explained with careful professional neutrality, were considerably broader than most citizens realized or most criminals expected. Colorado Revised Statute 18-1-704.5 specifically allowed reasonable defensive force to protect private property from ongoing vehicular threats, including repeat trespassing by the same individuals using motor vehicles as weapons of intimidation. Sometimes Colorado law protects property owners much more comprehensively than people think, he said quietly while handing me his professional contact card. Might be worth consulting a qualified attorney about legal defensive installations and property protection rights. Those words would prove prophetic within 72 hours. That evening, I transformed my grief into precision engineering fury. The familiar smell of sawdust and machine oil began filling my garage workspace as I channeled devastating emotional energy into mathematical calculations for medieval siege equipment design principles. Sarah's garden journal lay open beside my engineering workbench like a spiritual blueprint, her pressed flowers serving as silent witnesses to my tactical planning sessions. Trebuchet physics became my obsessive focus. Kinetic energy equals mass times velocity squared. Gravitational potential energy converts to projectile momentum through mechanical advantage systems. A 2,000-pound counterweight falling 8 feet through Earth's gravitational field generates exactly 16,000 foot-pounds of energy. sufficient force to launch a 20-pound granite projectile at 60 miles per hour with artillery-grade accuracy across 50-yard targeting distances. My neighbor Fred knocked on my garage door around 9 p.m., drawn by the sounds of serious construction activity echoing through our quiet residential neighborhood. "Jake, that definitely looks like medieval siege equipment under construction," he observed with the practical appreciation of someone who'd spent 40 years operating precision machinery for automotive manufacturing. "It's kinetic sculpture," I replied without looking up from trajectory calculation spreadsheets. "Artistic expression of defensive gardening concepts combined with historical military engineering appreciation." Fred grinned with conspiratorial understanding and immediately rolled up his sleeves. "Need professional help with the precision metalwork and mechanical engineering components?" That moment marked when I realized our entire community was quietly rallying behind my cause like neighbors supporting resistance against occupation forces. My attorney consultation with Jennifer Walsh completely revolutionized the strategic landscape. She specialized in Colorado property law with the kind of sharp legal intellect that could dissect HOA nonsense like a precision scalpel cutting through bureaucratic tissue paper. When I presented Officer Martinez's suggestion about defensive installations, her experienced eyes illuminated with the excitement of someone who'd discovered buried legal treasure. "Colorado's Make My Day law extends far beyond simple home invasion scenarios," she explained with growing enthusiasm, spreading comprehensive legal documentation across her polished conference table. Section 181704.5 specifically includes curtilage protection. That's the immediate property surrounding your dwelling, including lawns, gardens, driveways, and any structures within your property boundaries. The legal revelation struck my engineering mind like a mathematical proof suddenly clicking into perfect logical alignment. Property owners possessed broad authority to deploy reasonable defensive force against vehicles repeatedly threatening property damage through systematic trespassing violations. Jennifer cited multiple precedent cases where Colorado homeowners had successfully defended against both criminal prosecution and civil liability for damaging trespassing vehicles during property protection activities. The key legal standard was proportionality. Defensive response must match the severity and persistence of the ongoing threat. Reasonable defensive force, she emphasized while tapping the relevant statute with her expensive pen. 20-pound granite projectile versus 6,000-pound luxury SUV definitely qualifies as proportionate response under established Colorado legal precedent and judicial interpretation. But the real strategic power shift emerged from Officer Martinez's off-the-record intelligence sharing during his follow-up property inspection visit. He revealed information that made my analytical engineering mind buzz with tactical possibilities I hadn't previously considered. Cheryl Blackstone has accumulated 12 documented speeding violations within this specific neighborhood jurisdiction alone, he confided while carefully checking for potential eavesdropping surveillance. All systematically dismissed due to what our prosecutor diplomatically calls HOA political influence. But there's an established pattern of vehicular trespassing charges that legally could have been filed under different circumstances. He discreetly showed me incident reports dating back 3 full years, documenting systematic boundary violations throughout Meadowbrook Heights. Cheryl had been conducting organized property trespassing campaigns against multiple residents, always deploying the same fraudulent excuse about emergency access rights, always achieving the same result through HOA legal intervention preventing prosecution. Her institutional protection won't continue indefinitely, Martinez warned, with the wisdom of someone who'd observed local political dynamics for decades. And when that protection finally ends, comprehensive documentation will prove absolutely critical for successful prosecution. That evening, I studied medieval siege warfare principles with the same methodical intensity I'd previously applied to aircraft hydraulic system design during my aerospace engineering career. Trebuchet mechanics, ballistic trajectory calculations, historical precedents for defensive siege equipment deployment became my obsessive research focus. Medieval castle defenders hadn't simply built passive walls. They'd engineered precision targeting systems capable of mathematical accuracy. Trebuchets weren't random weapons of destruction. They were sophisticated mathematical instruments designed for specific operational ranges, specific tactical targets, specific strategic outcomes. Colorado property law, I discovered, viewed defensive installations through exactly the same analytical framework. Not offensive weapons, but protective barrier systems. Not unprovoked attacks, but measured responses to documented ongoing threats. The Johnson versus Martinez precedent case became my legal foundation document. Property owners who meticulously documented repeated vehicular trespassing patterns could legally install defensive measures including kinetic barriers, specifically designed to disable threatening vehicles when other remediation efforts had systematically failed. Jennifer's comprehensive legal opinion letter became my insurance policy against future prosecution. Client's proposed defensive installation appears to fully comply with Colorado Revised Statute 181704.5 regarding proportionate property protection measures. Extensively documented pattern of systematic vehicular trespassing clearly justifies reasonable defensive countermeasures. Translation: my trebuchet design was completely legal under Colorado state law. The real emotional breakthrough occurred during late-night research when I discovered a page in Sarah's notebook I'd somehow never noticed before. Hidden between carefully pressed memorial flowers, she'd written prophetic words. Memorial Garden should protect itself, just like the mountains protect Colorado through avalanches and rock slides. Jake's engineering expertise can make this defensive dream become reality. She'd sketched defensive garden border designs that resembled artillery positions more than traditional landscaping. My wife, the gentle English teacher, had apparently absorbed enough military history through her extensive reading to design a comprehensive strategic defense system disguised as peaceful landscape architecture. The power dynamic had shifted completely. Cheryl assumed she was intimidating a grief-stricken widower who could be controlled through legal paperwork and bureaucratic threats. Instead, she'd initiated conflict with a precision engineer who discovered that Colorado law actively supported his right to defend his wife's memorial using medieval siege equipment. Construction entered its final precision phase with the methodical intensity of a NASA mission launch preparation sequence. My garage transformed into engineering command headquarters, filled with the satisfying mechanical whine of professional power tools shaping trebuchet components and the sharp industrial smell of wood stain chemically bonding with metal polish in perfect atmospheric harmony. The underlying physics principles were elegantly beautiful in their mathematical simplicity. Trebuchet operation depends on gravitational potential energy converting to kinetic energy through mechanical advantage multiplication systems. My specific design utilized a precisely calculated 100-to-1 counterweight ratio, 2,000 pounds of reinforced concrete blocks falling 8 feet through Earth's gravitational field to launch a 20-pound granite boulder with devastating ballistic accuracy. Fred's 4 decades of precision machinist expertise proved absolutely invaluable for the critical pivot mechanism engineering. Those specialized bearings had to handle massive rotational torque forces without mechanical binding, transferring energy with minimal thermodynamic loss through friction. Carol's comprehensive legal research uncovered additional precedent cases I'd missed during initial analysis, while Tom provided tactical insights about timing systems that could mathematically calculate vehicle speed and trajectory with artillery-grade precision. My projectile ammunition came from Rocky Mountain Stone Supply's Specialty Geological Department, perfectly spherical granite boulders, each weighing exactly 20 pounds with density tested for consistent ballistic flight characteristics. The quarry operations manager asked 0 questions when I explained I was constructing kinetic garden art installations celebrating Colorado's mining heritage. Testing phase commenced with comprehensive watermelon practice runs during carefully scheduled late-night sessions to avoid neighborhood disturbance. Curious neighbors began secretly gathering in darkened windows, watching my medieval siege machine achieve pinpoint targeting accuracy within a 6-inch radius at 50-yard combat distances. The deeply satisfying metallic thunk of counterweight dropping, followed by the whistling flight of projectiles, became our neighborhood's midnight entertainment programming. Legal strategy implementation required equal engineering precision and documentary thoroughness. I filed comprehensive defensive installation notification paperwork with the county sheriff's office, officially documenting my legal intent to protect private property using lawfully authorized defensive measures. Posted professionally printed warning signs every 10 feet along my complete property boundary, installed motion-activated surveillance cameras for total documentation coverage, and prepared a legal defense evidence folder thick enough to overwhelm any prosecutor. The financial calculations followed straightforward engineering mathematics. Total accumulated damage from Cheryl's systematic violations, $3,200 and escalating at $400 per destructive incident. Trebuchet construction materials cost, $800 for aerospace-grade components, $500 additional for comprehensive legal consultation services. Potential Escalade, total destruction value, $65,000, assuming direct projectile impact to engine compartment and passenger cabin structural areas. Return on investment calculation, 8,000% profit margin, not including the absolutely priceless psychological satisfaction of physics-based justice delivery systems. Maria's professional insurance industry expertise provided crucial intelligence about vehicle damage assessment procedures and claim denial protocols. Direct impact damage from projectile weapons during commission of criminal trespassing activities, she explained with technical authority, provides insurance companies with every legal excuse to deny coverage completely. Cheryl would face personal financial responsibility for total vehicle replacement costs. Strategic timeline planning required comprehensive tracking of Cheryl's professional schedule through publicly available real estate listing databases. Her biggest commission closing of the entire year was scheduled for Friday, May 14th, a $2 million luxury property transaction that would generate enough income to fund her development company's neighborhood acquisition project. High-stress day would naturally produce maximum aggressive driving behavior, creating perfect operational conditions for triggering my defensive response system. Camouflage strategy solved the final engineering challenge with elegant simplicity. HOA aesthetic guidelines specifically allowed artistic displays under 15 feet in height, and my trebuchet design qualified as kinetic sculpture, expressing historical themes of medieval defensive architecture and Colorado pioneer heritage. Even Cheryl couldn't legally complain about legitimate art installations without revealing her true intentions to control every aspect of neighborhood life. The completed machine's technical sophistication exceeded most NASA launch systems in terms of precision targeting capability. Integrated laser rangefinder for exact distance measurement, digital wind speed calculator for trajectory adjustment compensation, motion sensors for automatic target acquisition and tracking. My aerospace engineering background had created a defensive weapon system that belonged in the Smithsonian Institution, disguised as backyard garden art. Final testing protocols used pumpkins as practice ammunition since they accurately approximated the weight and aerodynamic flight characteristics of granite boulders without creating property damage liability during calibration procedures. Targeting accuracy remained mathematically consistent. Impact zone predictable within 3 inches at operational combat range under normal atmospheric conditions. Sarah's memorial garden site watched over my final preparation activities like a spiritual blessing from beyond. Her cracked memorial stone caught morning sunlight through the damaged surface, those struggling Irish roses attempting to regrow from Cheryl's systematic destruction. The loyal hummingbirds continued visiting her feeders, tiny witnesses to the defensive system that would finally provide permanent protection for their peaceful sanctuary. My engineering mind deeply appreciated the poetic symmetry of the situation. Cheryl had chosen to violate my property using kinetic energy principles, 6,000 pounds of mass moving at 37 miles per hour. My defensive response would employ exactly the same physics, just more efficiently applied through superior engineering. Cheryl discovered my comprehensive warning sign system on Tuesday morning, and her response revealed the absolute depths of her pathological arrogance and complete disconnect from legal reality. Instead of reconsidering her daily property violation routine like any rational human being would, she organized a demonstration tour specifically designed to showcase my convenient access route to potential real estate investors and development company representatives. I observed from my strategic kitchen window position as 3 luxury vehicles followed her black Escalade across my memorial garden at progressively increasing speeds, like she was conducting an advanced masterclass in systematic trespassing techniques for profit-motivated criminals. Her enthusiastic sales pitch to the assembled clients was clearly audible through my deliberately opened windows, providing perfect audio documentation for future legal proceedings. Established emergency access easement provides secondary vehicular access to all adjacent properties, she announced with prosecutorial confidence, gesturing toward my legally posted warning signs like they were merely quaint neighborhood decorations. Previous property owner voluntarily agreed to community convenience corridor usage, extremely practical arrangement for emergency services response, and general traffic flow optimization. Pure criminal fabrication delivered with the smooth confidence of a seasoned confidence artist who'd perfected her technique through years of successful intimidation campaigns. But Cheryl's elaborate performance theater revealed her critical strategic error that would ultimately destroy her entire scheme. She was actively marketing my ongoing property violation as a permanent selling feature for adjacent development lots, creating multiple criminal witnesses to systematic trespassing while building completely false legal expectations for future property buyers who would discover the truth too late. My response followed established military communication protocols. Certified letter number 48 was delivered via registered mail with mandatory signature requirement and complete legal documentation. The warning message was mathematically precise and legally bulletproof. Property owner has activated comprehensive defensive systems in direct response to documented vehicular trespassing violations. Continued boundary violations may result in significant property damage, serious personal injury, or both consequences simultaneously. All defensive measures comply fully with Colorado Revised Statute 181704.5 regarding proportionate property protection. My trebuchet received final calibration adjustments based on Cheryl's newly aggressive driving pattern modifications and seasonal atmospheric changes. Hourly wind speed measurements recorded through digital monitoring equipment, vehicle approach speed documented through multiple synchronized camera angles, kinetic impact calculations refined to account for temperature variations affecting air density and projectile flight characteristics. The granite ammunition sat ready for deployment. 20 pounds of Colorado mountain stone, perfectly spherical geometry, tested for consistent ballistic properties and maximum structural damage potential. At 60 miles per hour impact velocity, kinetic energy transfer would exceed 36,000 foot-pounds of force, sufficient destructive power to completely demolish an entire engine block and passenger cabin simultaneously. But Cheryl's escalation campaign revealed a deeper conspiracy when I conducted comprehensive background research on the property tour participants. All 3 potential buyers represented her brother-in-law's development company through various shell corporation arrangements, and their supposed interest focused entirely on demolition cost estimates for existing residential structures rather than actual property purchase intentions. They weren't legitimate home buyers. They were advanced scouts for a comprehensive neighborhood conversion project with Cheryl serving as the primary acquisition specialist and intimidation coordinator. My corner lot represented the strategic keystone property, control my land, control the entire development plan and future profit margins. Friday's $2 million real estate commission suddenly achieved perfect strategic sense within this larger financial conspiracy. Cheryl desperately needed that substantial commission payment to finance the development project's initial phases, and my property represented the final missing piece of her family's expanding real estate empire puzzle. Community pressure escalated dramatically as neighbors finally realized the comprehensive scope of Cheryl's systematic acquisition scheme. Carol organized additional secret resident meetings in her basement conference area, reviewing extensive HOA documentation that revealed organized property acquisition campaigns specifically targeting elderly residents and recent widowers throughout our community. She's been methodically planning this neighborhood takeover for at least 5 years, Carol explained with growing anger, surrounded by cardboard boxes filled with incriminating legal documents. 23 separate properties sold significantly below fair market value after sustained HOA harassment campaigns. You're simply the latest target in her systematic intimidation program. The psychological pressure intensified as Cheryl began driving across my memorial garden multiple times daily, deliberately daring me to activate defensive countermeasures while building her fraudulent narrative about established access rights. Each destructive pass eliminated more memorial plantings while strengthening her false documentation for future legal proceedings. My motion sensor network tracked her behavioral pattern with scientific precision. 7 a.m. initial violation during morning commute, noon lunch hour intimidation demonstration, 5 p.m. evening rush hour performance for neighborhood witnesses. Like a laboratory test subject trained to press reward buttons, except her psychological reward was complete dominance over a grieving widower's emotional vulnerability. Technical preparation achieved NASA-level operational sophistication. My targeting system could calculate Cheryl's approach speed, vehicle trajectory, and optimal projectile intercept coordinates with artillery-grade mathematical precision. The trebuchet's release mechanism waited for my activation signal like a coiled mechanical spring loaded with 2 full years of suppressed grief and steadily building rage. Cheryl's ultimate gambit materialized Thursday evening in the form of an emergency HOA meeting notice that revealed the full scope of her authoritarian ambitions. Critical community safety hazard assessment, the official agenda declared with bureaucratic pomposity, featuring my property listed as the primary discussion item requiring immediate board action. Her comprehensive strategy was transparently obvious. Declare my trebuchet a public nuisance threatening neighborhood safety, force its complete removal through HOA regulatory authority, then celebrate her victory with the biggest real estate commission of her entire career. The meeting was strategically scheduled for Friday at exactly 4 p.m., precisely 30 minutes before her crucial $2 million closing appointment across town. She'd planned to publicly humiliate me in front of the entire community, then speed across my memorial garden one final triumphant time while rushing to collect her massive commission check and seal her development company's financial future. Psychological warfare, executed at its most coldly calculated level of strategic manipulation. But Cheryl had fundamentally underestimated the sophisticated community intelligence network that Carol's basement research meetings had methodically created over the past month. By Thursday evening, I possessed complete knowledge of every detail in her elaborate scheme, including confidential architectural plans for converting my corner lot into a commercial parking structure designed to serve the development company's strip mall construction project. Sarah's memorial garden was literally scheduled for transformation into a striped asphalt rectangle featuring numbered parking spaces and concrete wheel stops. My final preparation phase entered military-grade operational readiness with systematic precision that would impress Pentagon logistics coordinators. The trebuchet received comprehensive lubrication maintenance on every moving mechanical component. Granite ammunition was positioned for instantaneous loading procedures, and my targeting calculations were verified against Friday's detailed weather forecast and atmospheric condition predictions. Meteorological analysis. Wind speed 5 miles per hour from southwestern direction. Air temperature 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Atmospheric pressure stable at optimal levels. Absolutely perfect environmental conditions for precision delivery of kinetic justice through superior engineering application. Community mobilization efforts surprised everyone involved, including my own expectations about neighborhood solidarity during crisis situations. Fred organized our local veterans as official witnesses with military documentation protocols. Carol prepared comprehensive legal evidence packages proving HOA authority limitations regarding artistic installations and property rights. Tom established live stream broadcasting equipment for real-time social media coverage and permanent documentation. Even Maria strategically positioned herself for professional insurance claim photography services. Purely coincidental timing, she claimed, with obvious conspiratorial satisfaction. Friday morning delivered Cheryl's most aggressively destructive violation in our entire 2-year conflict history. At precisely 7:47 a.m., she roared across my memorial garden at 42 miles per hour, generating massive clouds of Sarah's disturbed soil while simultaneously laying on her horn like a mechanical war cry designed to announce her complete dominance over my emotional vulnerability. But this morning's assault included coordinated backup support. 3 HOA board members followed in separate vehicles, systematically documenting my supposed failure to maintain acceptable community standards, while deliberately trampling the last surviving Irish roses into the earth with their tires like an organized military unit destroying enemy supplies. I stood motionless on my porch, drinking coffee with mathematical calm, watching the systematic destruction of everything Sarah had loved and planned during her final months, feeling the solid weight of granite ammunition in my pocket, like a promise of justice waiting to be fulfilled through physics and Colorado law. The trebuchet waited silently in my backyard like a sleeping giant, its massive counterweight poised with gravitational potential energy incarnate. At 3:30 p.m. sharp, the emergency HOA meeting convened in our community center with all the ceremony of a military tribunal. Cheryl presented her case with courtroom precision and prosecutorial authority. My trebuchet constituted a dangerous weapon threatening public safety, violated established community aesthetic standards, and endangered property values through medieval intimidation tactics designed to terrorize law-abiding residents. Mr. Brennan's obvious grief has clearly affected his rational judgment, she announced to the assembled residents with false sympathy masking pure calculation. This so-called art installation represents nothing more than a weapon of mass destruction disguised as garden decor, threatening every family in our peaceful community. And board members nodded in rehearsed synchronization until Carol stood up with her comprehensive research folder and legal documentation. Motion to dismiss all proceedings, she declared with courtroom authority. Colorado Revised Statute 3833.308 requires 67% resident approval for any new regulatory restrictions. This meeting lacks proper legal notification, established quorum requirements, and fundamental legal authority to impose new restrictions. Her meticulous legal research had uncovered the nuclear option that would destroy Cheryl's entire power structure. Every single HOA action from the past 8 years was completely invalid due to systematically improper procedures and unauthorized regulatory overreach. The meeting devolved into complete chaos as 23 residents simultaneously demanded immediate refunds for illegally imposed fines and penalties. Cheryl's carefully constructed empire crumbled in real time as her systematic corruption became undeniable to everyone present. 4:15 p.m. Cheryl stormed out of the meeting screaming threats about lawsuits and property rights while obsessively checking her expensive watch. Her $2 million closing waited across town, but first she had one final message to deliver. 4:37 p.m. precisely. Cheryl's black Escalade accelerated toward my corner lot with the mechanical fury of someone whose entire criminal empire had just collapsed in public humiliation. Engine roaring with 2 years of accumulated arrogance and desperate rage over her complete HOA meeting defeat. My sophisticated motion sensor network detected vehicle approach at exactly 47.3 miles per hour, faster than any previous violation, fueled by pure psychological desperation to reassert dominance through vehicular intimidation. Absolutely perfect targeting data for an aerospace engineer's calculated revenge operation. I stood calmly on my porch with coffee cup steady in my hand, watching my trebuchet's precision laser rangefinder automatically lock onto its approaching target with mechanical inevitability. The magnificent machine had been waiting for this exact moment with patient mechanical precision, massive counterweight suspended in gravitational potential, throwing arm cocked at optimal angle, granite ammunition loaded and ready for physics-mandated delivery of medieval justice. Cheryl's Escalade crossed my property boundary traveling 47.3 miles per hour according to my digital speed calculation systems. Motion sensors triggered my targeting computer. 2,000-pound counterweight began its inevitable 8-foot gravitational descent toward Earth's center. Pure physics assumed complete control from that moment forward. The counterweight fell with mathematical certainty, transferring exactly 16,000 foot-pounds of gravitational energy through precision-engineered mechanical advantage systems. My throwing arm snapped forward like medieval lightning concentrated into mechanical form, launching 20 pounds of Colorado granite in a perfect parabolic trajectory toward mathematical destiny and poetic justice. Flight time, 2.8 seconds of suspended anticipation. Impact velocity, 58 miles per hour of concentrated kinetic energy. Force at contact, 36,000 foot-pounds focused into one perfectly spherical piece of mountain stone. Catastrophic impact. The granite boulder smashed through Cheryl's windshield with the explosive sound of expensive German safety glass, disintegrating into geometric fragments scattered across my memorial garden, like crystal confetti, celebrating victory. Her luxury vehicle's roof caved inward as 20 pounds of mountain stone transferred its complete kinetic energy into structural destruction, trapping her in the driver's seat like a metal coffin designed by physics and justice. The engine compartment crumpled with satisfying metallic violence as the boulder continued its momentum-driven trajectory, completely crushing the engine block and destroying everything forward of the firewall in spectacular mechanical devastation. 6,000 pounds of luxury SUV transformed into twisted metal sculpture in the space of one perfect engineering moment that would replay in my memory forever. Cheryl's Escalade skidded sideways across my lawn, front bumper torn completely away. Hood accordion pleated against the passenger compartment with artistic precision. Steam hissed dramatically from the destroyed cooling system, while various automotive fluids leaked rainbow patterns into Sarah's memorial soil like mechanical blood offering tribute to her memory. Total vehicle destruction, magnificently achieved through superior engineering and Colorado law. Witnesses materialized from every direction like they'd been strategically positioned for this climactic moment. 12 neighbors with smartphones recording everything in high-definition glory. Fire department personnel arriving for Tom's perfectly timed emergency call about a serious vehicle accident. 3 potential buyers who'd followed Cheryl from the HOA meeting. Cameras documenting the spectacular end of her real estate empire in real-time social media coverage. Carol positioned herself with professional-grade video equipment capturing every detail while Fred live-streamed directly to his engineering forum community. Even Officer Martinez appeared with suspiciously perfect timing, surveying the mechanical wreckage with barely concealed professional satisfaction. I walked with measured calm from my porch toward the destruction zone, my footsteps crunching rhythmically on safety glass scattered like crystal celebration across the lawn where Sarah's roses had once grown in peaceful beauty. Cheryl sat trapped in her driver's seat, screaming through the caved-in roof opening with the hysteria of someone whose entire world had just collapsed. "You tried to murder me! I'm calling the police immediately! This is attempted homicide with a medieval weapon!" "Ma'am," I replied with aerospace engineer precision and mathematical calm, "you've been officially warned 47 documented times about activated defensive systems protecting this private property. This represents reasonable defensive force under Colorado Revised Statute 181704.5 regarding proportionate property protection. This is completely insane. You cannot just destroy people's expensive cars with medieval siege weapons. This is Colorado property law," I continued with educational patience, gesturing toward my professionally posted warning signs visible every 10 feet. Officer Martinez can explain the complete legal framework when he finishes documenting his incident report. The growing crowd buzzed with excitement as social media alerts spread through our neighborhood like wildfire. Tom's live stream hit 15,000 viewers in real time, comments exploding with enthusiastic support. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, and justice served medieval style, and engineer beats Karen with pure science. My evidence presentation began immediately with projecting doorbell footage onto my garage door using the portable screen system I'd prepared specifically for this triumphant moment. The aftermath unfolded with the satisfying precision of a perfectly executed engineering system delivering exactly the results predicted by mathematical calculations. Cheryl's completely destroyed Escalade was towed away as a total loss. $68,000 of twisted luxury metal that her insurance company refused to cover due to standard criminal activity exclusions and driver liability for illegal trespassing violations. Criminal charges materialized faster than even I had anticipated through my legal research. Vehicular trespassing, systematic property destruction, reckless endangerment, fraud, 47 meticulously documented violations finally caught up with Cheryl Blackstone's 2-year reign of suburban terror. Her real estate license was immediately suspended pending comprehensive fraud investigations into those elaborate fake emergency access documents and systematic client deception practices. The crucial $2 million closing completely canceled when Cheryl failed to appear, trapped instead in legal proceedings that would consume the next 18 months of her previously comfortable life. Her massive commission evaporated along with her brother-in-law's development company Dreams and their systematic neighborhood acquisition scheme. Colorado's Victim Rights Compensation Program provided the most satisfying vindication. The State Attorney General's office reviewed my comprehensive case documentation and awarded full reimbursement for all property damage, legal consultation fees, and emotional distress compensation. $8,000 in direct monetary compensation, plus complete coverage for attorney costs and court filing fees. My property value increased 15% virtually overnight as news spread through real estate networks. Apparently, trebuchet-protected neighborhoods became an unexpected marketing advantage that property agents couldn't ignore. 3 additional residents installed their own defensive systems, legal catapults, decorative protective moats, and artistic barrier installations that effectively discouraged casual trespassing throughout our community. The HOA underwent complete organizational transformation through emergency democratic elections. The entire corrupt board was removed and replaced with residents who actually read legal documents before signing them. 23 illegally imposed fines were refunded with accumulated interest penalties. Brad Blackstone lost his legal counsel position when the Colorado State Bar opened comprehensive ethics investigations into his systematic conflicts of interest. Sarah's memorial garden rose from the destruction more beautiful than our original design. I used granite fragments from my trebuchet ammunition to construct protective decorative borders around new plantings. The precious heirloom Irish roses grew back stronger than ever, their root systems nourished by soil that had finally been properly defended against criminal destruction. The cracked memorial stone was professionally restored using traditional Japanese kintsugi repair techniques, filling structural cracks with metallic gold to celebrate survival and strength, rather than attempting to hide previous damage. Love grows best in little gardens, now gleamed with golden beauty, stronger and more beautiful for having survived systematic attack. My trebuchet achieved permanent installation status under Colorado's artistic expression protection laws. Engineering students regularly request guided tours. Medieval weapon societies officially named me their annual Defender of the Year. The Discovery Channel produced a full documentary, Medieval Justice, Modern Property Wars, that aired nationally to excellent ratings. The Veterans Memorial Defense Fund emerged directly from my unexpected fame and social media attention. Trebuchet demonstration tours raised $25,000 during the first year alone, providing crucial legal assistance to military families facing similar property rights violations across Colorado. Engineering scholarships were established for students studying practical defensive applications and property protection systems. YouTube immortality arrived when Tom's live stream footage reached 2.3 million views with continuing viral growth. Hashtag Trebuchet Justice became a national rallying cry for property rights advocates and HOA reform movements. I received speaking invitations from engineering conferences, homeowners' rights organizations, and medieval weapons societies nationwide. Community relationships transformed into lifelong friendships forged through collective resistance against institutional bullying. Fred established the Precision Engineering Club, where neighbors build defensive contraptions combining artistic beauty with practical protection. Carol became a statewide HOA reform activist, speaking at legislative hearings about regulatory abuse. Tom created veteran support networks providing property defense consulting services. Every peaceful morning, I sit on Sarah's restored memorial bench drinking coffee, watching faithful hummingbirds visit her feeders while my trebuchet stands as silent guardian in the background. No tire tracks cross my lawn anymore. Complete peace reigns, enforced through superior firepower and comprehensive Colorado property law. The Rocky Mountains still protect Colorado from external threats, and my medieval siege weapon protects Sarah's memory from neighborhood criminals. Have you dealt with an HOA nightmare story that makes Cheryl look reasonable by comparison? Share your experience in the comments below. I read every single submission, and some might inspire future engineering solutions. Don't forget to subscribe for more justice-served cold revenge stories. Next week, my neighbors' pool parties kept me awake, so I built a sound system that made them move to Nebraska. Because sometimes the best defense requires superior medieval offense, and physics always wins in the end.
Thanks for hanging out with us on HOA Stories, where the HOA Karens meet their match. If this story had you cheering or cringing, go ahead and like the video, drop a comment with your reaction, and hit subscribe so you're ready for the next wild HOA tale.